Get off the right wheel.
Thank you very much for that kind introduction. Thank you for the great welcome. It's wonderful to be here with you today. And I want to spend some time and talk to you in the time I have with you today about what I believe is the scarcest resource in the world. Not oil, not gold, not plutonium, but leadership. Everything rises and falls on leadership. If you want to win in life, if you want to build a big team, if you want to build a great family, if you want to build a great church, if you want to build a wonderful community, whatever you want to do, you've got to become a better leader if you want to be a force. See, the world, more than at any time in my life, I believe we need leadership. We need people who can bring people together, who can build a cause and make things happen. I just, as they were talking in the introduction, I was with the same company for almost 34 years. And then I've gone out now on a new venture. And that is with Success Magazine, which I believe is an amazing magazine that brings positive thinking, personal development into human beings' lives. Stuart Johnson, that is the owner and runs the organization, is one of my dearest friends. And so now I'm leadership editor with Success. And my goal in the time as I'm entering this, what I consider victory lap, fourth quarter of my career, instead of running a business, is I want to be an evangelist for leadership, for changing our country, for changing our world by planting real leaders. I just had a new book come out, which has been a bestseller on everything. It actually blows me away for a kid from Covington, Georgia, that grew up in the middle of nowhere, with no anticipation in my life I would ever be speaking in front of large crowds or having a best-selling book. But my book is called Real Leadership: 9 Simple Practices for Leading and Living with Purpose. And so for a second, I want to talk about those 9, but then I really want to focus on 5 of the practices. And then, so first let me talk about what I mean by real leadership. I don't mean that if you're not following what John Addison has to say, that it's not real. That I'm the only one that can talk to you about leadership, because there are all different styles of leadership. There are all different types of people who can become great leaders. But real means you being authentic to you. See, let me tell you what, the best you'll ever be if you try to be somebody else is a pale copy of them. You've got to work daily on becoming the best you can be. So the 9 practices, which kind of came out of a year of working and thinking through philosophies, because before that what I'd done is grown up in and run a company and then saved a company in the height of the financial collapse. I believe that you got to be focused on what you're doing every day, the main thing. And so I'd never really sat down and said, okay, I'm going to write down my philosophy. And then after that, I really spent time going through that story and saying, what is it in my core and in my soul I believe about leadership? So if you'll bring up the 9 practices, the first is decide who you are. I'm going to talk about that topic because I believe that may be the most critical one. The second is shine your light on others. Build on your strengths. Earn your position every day. Focus on what you can control. Develop a peaceful core. be a lighthouse, don't burn bridges, and then the final is make your parents proud. And so in the time I've got, I want to work on with you and develop those themes and talk to you about you becoming a great leader, you becoming a real leader. See, the first principle I want to talk to you about is decide who you are. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "The only person you are destined to become is the person you decide to be." Now, decide ends with "icide," like homicide, suicide. Okay, now those other "icides" mean the death of something. When you hear the word that ends in "icide," usually somebody's dead. When you decide, it means you got to kill the other options. You have to make a decision on who you are in your soul and your core. Most of us go through our lives sticking our toe in the water of everything. We dabble at this. We try that. We do this as long as it's convenient. Everything in life, people go through life like they're going to have another one at the end. And now you are going to have another one, just not on this earth. Okay, now the reality is, while you're here, this is your shot. You're not going to get a do-over at the end. You got to decide how you're going. But most people approach their life like it's not the biggest deal. See, in life, you got to understand your life, your family, how you live is a big deal. It is a great cause. Sir Winston Churchill, who is one of my heroes, I'm a member of the Churchill Society. In fact, in a few weeks, I'll be heading to London for the annual Churchill Conference. And he was an amazing man and a great leader at exactly the right time. I mean, at the end of the 20th century, Winston Churchill, and by almost every poll, Winston Churchill and Martin Luther King Jr. were recognized as the two greatest leaders and men of the 20th century. And one of the things he said when he was talking about how he held things together in 1940, before America was in the war, and France had fallen, and the Nazis were taking over all of Europe, and the only thing standing between them was England, which had a tenth of the military power of Germany. And he held things together until the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor and the Americans entered the war. But he was just every day fighting to survive. And one of his quotes was, "Strength is granted to us all when we are needed to serve great causes." See, your life is a great cause. What you do with this scarce time that you have on earth is a great cause. One thing we have in common in this room, from all walks of life, no matter what differences we have, one thing we absolutely have in common is 100 years from now, 100% mortality. We are all heading daily toward an event we had just as soon not go to, where we're the guest of honor, but we're up front in a box. Okay, that's happening. People act like, oh no, that happens to other people, not me. Guess what? We're all mortal. Cemeteries of the world are full of irreplaceable people. You got short time. It goes by like this. It's this quick. You never know. I mean, live every day like it's your last, and one of these days you're going to be right. This is not a dress rehearsal. This is your life. This is your life. You got to fight for it. You got to make a stand and demand great things for you and your family. And no one but you is going to make them happen for you and your family. So you got to decide who you are. What motivates you and drives you at your core? You have to work harder on yourself than you do your business. You have to see yourself as not a human being, but a human becoming. That every day you're going to get better. Today I'm going to be better than I was yesterday. Tomorrow I'm going to be better than I am today. I am going to be green and growing, not ripe and rotten. I'm going to work on myself. I'm going to improve. One of the ways that starts with who do you give the keys to your brain to? Who do you allow to control your thinking? If your thinking is stinking, your team is shrinking. That is a fact of life. Your brain is one of the most important things you need to control. Who do you let control it? You or the television? You or your smartphone? I think sometimes now we have smartphones and stupid people, okay? What do you allow to come in your head? The internet is a great thing. When I was in college, I had to know how to use the Dewey Decimal System in the card catalog in the library. Now you can find anything. But unfortunately, you can find anything. And for most people, the internet becomes a giant sewer that just pours into their brain every day. In data processing, it's garbage in, garbage out. With the brain, it's garbage in, garbage stays. You have to fight like crazy on who and what you allow to control your brain. Who do you give the keys to? Who do you surround yourself with? If you can't change the people around you, you need to change the people around you. Who controls how you think? You know, look, I have another saying which I use all the time, which is never take advice from anyone more screwed up than you are. But it is amazing how many people do. Tell you a true story. About 10 years ago, I was CEO of Primerica, was traveling from doing a big, tour of cities and stuff. It was in late fall, and my wife and I were going to go to one of our favorite places where we rented a little house and stuff in the Abacos in the Bahamas, which is absolutely beautiful and, just it's a gorgeous place. And so she was meeting me at the Fort Lauderdale airport to get on a flight over to spend several days and just drop off the earth. Now, I'd been everywhere and I'm heading there, been to Fort Lauderdale, had talked to some people, and then I was at the airport to meet her. Now, I had switched to vacation Jimmy Buffett mode, okay? I was no longer worried about what was happening in the world. I was ready to go have some fun and shut down for a few days. But I still had on a Primerica golf shirt because I'd just done a meeting. And so we're at the airport, and this is in about 2004 or so. It's after 9/11 and after the security change. In fact, it was right after the idiot that, had the shoe bomb zone, so it made it where you have to take your shoes off now, okay? And so, which I always said the guy, they should have convicted him and then had him put to death by having frequent flyers like me just throw shoes at him for a while. But anyway, I digress. But I'm going through the security line. My wife is already out at the Delta Sky Club, and I'm heading out to meet her. And so I'm in line, and I'm just trying to get through line. Now, I am a 3 million miler on Delta, okay? I know how to get through an airport. I don't own shoes that have laces, okay? Loafers, easy off. I know, make sure the belt doesn't set off metal detectors. I got it down, okay? I'm through. And so I'm in the line, and I'm getting up to right where, we're about to push the bag through the thing. And so after that, after the shoe bomber, there's the guy standing there making sure you put your smelly shoes in a bucket to put them through. And so he's standing there, and he sees my Primerica shirt. And he goes, "You in that Primerica thing?" Yeah, I'm in the Primerica thing, okay? "You making any money?" "No, yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay with it," or whatever. He goes, "My cousin went to one of them meetings and looked at it. And I told him, you got to get one of them things early, man. If you want to make money, you got to get in early." And so so we didn't do it. And I was like, "Oh man, that's great. I'm sorry, hey, God bless," and I was gone. Okay. And because, so I get out to the plane and I start laughing. And I go, that is the exact guy that kills recruits. Because it's like, now what's that thing you're looking at? I looked at that. I don't know. I don't think that works. Now, and people listen to him. Now, he don't know nothing about nothing. He puts smelly shoes in a bucket all day long. But people listen to him. So one of the things you got to work on for yourself and for your people is don't let them take advice from anyone more screwed up than they are. Take your own advice. Work on your thinking. Work on your head. Work on yourself every single day. Be a daily goal setter and a daily goal hitter. Get up today and get better. Look, there's a lot of people that are great at having these plans for the next 10 years and everything, what their life is going to be like, what they're going to do, and all this stuff. And I'm not that way. Addison starts with ADD. Okay? I don't. You ask me what I'm going to do 5 years from now, hell, I hope I'm alive. Okay? I'm not wired that way. But what I am good at is getting up in the morning, hitting the floor, and getting after it. Okay? I'm in airports, like I said, all the time. People go, say, "You seem so happy. Something great must have happened today." I went, "It did. Feet hit the floor. They're still working. Any day on the right side of the grass is a good day." So decide who you are and decide to get better every day. The second principle I want to talk to you about is build on your strengths. And now, that may sound simple, but I find in life, For most people, they do the exact opposite, and the people that train them and teach them try to get them to do the exact opposite. Okay, look, the best you'll ever be at something you are natural. We all are made up of DNA. We have things that are programmed and hardwired into us by God. We are who we, now that don't mean you can't get better and improve. I'm not saying any of that. I mean, okay, always work. But we are wired with inclinations and directions to us. And the best you'll ever be at a weakness is mediocre. No matter how hard you work on it. Somebody is great at that because they're hardwired to be good at that. You need to find, I speak a lot to universities and to college students, and I tell people, find what you're good at without trying, and then try. If you do that, you got a chance to be great. If you find what your natural strengths are, and you focus like crazy on them, and then as you build your life, build your business, surround yourself with people who are good at what you're bad at. That gives you a chance to be great. That gives you a chance to be exceptional in life. And so let me just give you an example. It's in the book, in the chapter where I talk about this, is when I was very young. I grew up in, like I said, in Covington, Georgia, and I went to an elementary school there called E.L. Fickwit Elementary School. And 5th grade, I had a teacher named Miss Harper, who probably was about my age, late 50s, but I thought she was 90 because she was this ancient human being. And she was a stern, tough, old school teacher. Okay, this is back when they would blister your tail with a paddle and all that kind of stuff. This, this wasn't when, now go stand in the corner and put your, and think, sit in the quiet seat for a few. I mean, it was, blister your butt, okay? Which, some ways I think we miss that now. But she was a stern, old school, tough teacher. And we had to do an oral book report on the life of a famous person from history. And 20-minute oral book report. And my assignment was a book on the life of Napoleon. Now, in my typical attention deficit disordered way, I thought the next Thursday was the day I had my book report. So I was about 2/3 of the way through. I'm sitting there in my desk daydreaming as usual or whatever, and she goes, "Now, Mr. Addison will give us an oral book report on the life of Napoleon." Now, you know that feeling when your stomach just drops to the tips of your toes where you go, "Oh my God, how did I do that? How could I be so stupid as to not be ready?" And so I'm sitting there and I have one of two decisions. I'm 10 years old. I can either go, "Ms. Harper, I thought it was next week and I'm not ready." Or I could just go, let's see how it goes. I chose, let's see how it goes. And went to the front of the room. I had read most of the book. I knew I've always liked history. I've always had a good memory at, remembering things. I was always good at that in school. And I knew that Napoleon, was defeated at Waterloo and wound up dying, in exile at the end and stuff like that. And so I went through what I knew and I just kind of filled in some details. And finished. And as I was going to sit down, Miss Harper looked at me and said, "Mr. Addison, in 35 years as a public school teacher, that's the best oral book report I've ever heard. And I remember being 10 years old going, that's good for something. Okay, didn't know what it was good for, had no idea where I would wind up and what I would wind up doing, but I recognized that God had given me a gift. Okay, so if you find your gifts, you work hard on yourself and you find your strengths, and then you focus like crazy on improving on those, you have a chance to be great. So I'm not saying don't work on your weaknesses. God knows I try, but I'm still disorganized. I lose things. My cell phone is a device that I can't keep up with. I've been through 10 iPads. That's how I am. I try to be better. I have a system. I try to do things where I have a system. But yet, if you talk to my executive assistant, Dana, she would go, God, she's been with me 25 years. She would go, where are you there? I mean, she knows where to check on me. Did you get there? Did you go to the right place? Did you do this? Focus on your strengths. Find your gifts. Maybe you have a unique ability to be a team builder. Maybe you have an ability to make people feel good. Maybe you're good at taking conflict and taking it down. Whatever those gifts are, focus on your gifts. Focus on your strengths. The next focus I want to talk to you about is focus on what you can control. Most people spend their whole life focused on their interests, not what they can influence. They're attracted to their distractions. They spend their time, listen to talk radio, people calling about this political thing, that political, all this stuff. Look, I have very strong opinions. Okay, you can tell by listening to me, you could imagine I have strong opinions. But last time I checked, this morning when I checked my email, the president had not emailed me on what to do about Iran. Okay, he had not, I know it's shocking to all of you in this room, but he had not sent an email saying, John, read your book. It's really a good book. What do you think I ought to do? Has not done that. I have no influence over it. None, not a zero. When I was running Primerica, I knew I had influence over the attitude, the mission, the focus, and the execution of that business. And I got up every day focused on that. What could I control? Let me tell you, for most people, let me tell you what you really can control, and that includes me, is your attitude and your activity. How you think, what you do. What do you get up every day thinking about, and then what do you do? Your team can't control them. Your spouse can't control them. Your kids, you dang sure can't control them. You can control you. You can control, and then if you want your team to be more positive, you be more positive. If you want your team to be more excited, you be more excited. If you want your team to put more effort in, you put more effort in. People follow what you do, not what you say. You have to be the thing. You have to be the change. You have to exemplify the change that you want to see in other people. Most people have no focus. They're like, my description is they're like an octopus on roller skates. A whir of activity with no direction. They're never going anywhere. They're just busy. Nothing ever moves forward. They're just busy. You've got to be focused on what the main thing is. Look, winning is boring. Winning is boring. It takes doing the same thing over and over, only better. You know, Vince Lombardi used to start every football camp by going, "Gentlemen, this is a football." John Wooden, when he won 10 straight national championships, one of the greatest basketball coaches, or the greatest basketball coach of all time, recruiting 5-star McDonald's All-Americans. These kids that were coming to UCLA knew how to play basketball. Started every first practice with how to lace up your tennis shoes, how to tie your shoes in the proper way and have your socks properly on so that you didn't get blisters in the middle of the game, so that you could run longer. Nick Saban, Alabama, all he ever talks about is the process. You know, Kirby Smart, that has just become the new head coach at the University of Georgia, was his defensive coordinator for almost a decade. And I was talking with him, and he was talking about how focused Saban is, that every day for lunch, he has the same thing, a salad with turkey on it with Italian dressing. And the reason he does that is that's one less decision he has to make that day, so that he can focus on the main thing. He said a few years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, when they won the national championship, coaches all went out celebrating national championship, got back to the hotel at 2 in the morning, had a note under the door, meeting at 7:30 in the conference room downstairs. You know, they're like, "We're flying home. We won the national championship." They go to the meeting at Saban, talking about recruiting priorities for next week. Winning is repetitive. Everybody's always looking for a shortcut, a cute new idea that's going to make me not have to do all this work, an anti-rejection pill where no one will ever say no again. Ain't gonna happen. You've got to be very focused. You've got to over and over and over again pay the price if you want to win. Focus is critical. Focus, most people are a mile wide and an inch deep. You have to do the main thing day after day after day. Great careers start with great years. Great years start with great months start with great weeks start with great days, and great days start with great thoughts. Inch by inch, it's a cinch. Keep pounding forward. Be perpetually in motion, moving forward. I've watched at Primerica people that come in and do this, and then the next thing you go, where'd they go? The people that win understand success is a marathon, not a sprint. You have to pay the price. You have to keep moving forward. The fourth point I want to talk about is to develop a peaceful core. Norman Vincent Peale said, "A peaceful mind generates power." And that is absolutely the truth. A peaceful mind generates power. A peaceful soul generates power. Look, when a leader has to be the human Alka-Seltzer. You see a lot of people in leadership positions, particularly political leadership positions. And if there's a little fire smoldering, they run and throw gas on it. Leaders are uniters, not dividers. Leaders calm things down. Leaders bring things back to the center. Leaders are like the eye of the storm. Leaders make people come together, not go apart. See, that is the mark of leadership. That is sometimes when you're the leader, you have to put your personal opinions to the side. You can't do just what you want to do. You have to understand where people are and get them to move to a better place. That means sometimes going, okay, I understand what they're thinking, I understand what they're thinking, I understand what those folks are thinking. How do I pull all of that together and move the ball down the field? Leaders make things better. And that starts with you having a peaceful core, where you have a center to you that can stand up to the storm. You need to find hobbies or whatever that make you forget the craziness of life. I love to garden. I've got a farm with 50-something acres, and I am completely at peace on a tractor or planting in my garden or whatever. I love to, I'll go on a Saturday. I've got an old pickup truck, and I'll go load up 50 azaleas in it and just go back and dig and plant azaleas. Okay, my place is really pretty, and I've planted most of it. But it is when I'm doing that, when I'm dirty, when I'm messing with that, when I'm not even thinking about the storms of life, I'm at peace. You need to find things that make you feel peaceful. And then you need to develop the ability to transfer that to other people. So my advice is turn off the television. Put down the phone for a few minutes and work on developing peace. So I've said, third time I've said I travel all the time. And when I'm in the airport now, anyone under the age of 40 usually has earbuds in their ears and they're tapping on a screen. Okay, I don't know what they're doing. Maybe they're doing something important, but probably not. And I told, again, when I spoke recently to the graduating seniors in the business school at the University of Georgia, I said, look, some of the most important people I've ever met in my life that either helped me with a deal I was working on for the company, helped me with something in my life, opened a door, made an introduction, I met talking to them in an airport. I mean, if you're in the Atlanta airport, sitting in the Delta Sky Club, it is the crossroads of the universe. You meet all kind of people. And if you actually talk to them, it's amazing. Sometimes you go, really? Seriously? That's what you... There's been times where I was dealing with a gnarly problem, and then it turned out the guy sitting next to me was the guy that could help me solve that. But now, if I'd have been sitting there with earbuds in my ear, tapping on whatever the heck app I was messing with, I would never met the dude. Shut down the noise. Work on your core and your soul, and then develop the ability to transfer that to other people. The final point, and the next slide, I obviously gave you the book again. The next point I want to talk to you about is not the book again. I want to talk about be a lighthouse, not a weather vane. Let me tell you, most people in life are a weather vane. Whichever way the wind's blowing, that's the direction they go. They're just spinning around and around based upon whatever the current. I mean, I hate, again, and I don't hate the internet. I know I sound like an old fossil now, but I hate what's trending. Okay, I mean, guess what? Most of the crap that's trending is a bunch of crap. Okay, I mean, but most of what's trending is junk to put in your brain instead of knowledge. It's things to make you mad or to agitate you or to make you angry. You can't spend your whole life getting blown from here to there and all around. You've got to be a lighthouse. You've got to be leader. Let me tell you, a lighthouse in fact, my business card has now that it's Addison Leadership Group, has a lighthouse on it, because I believe lighthouses aren't needed on beautiful sunny days. On a sunny day at the beach, a lighthouse is just a pretty building with seagulls flying around it. Lighthouses are needed when it's stormy, when it's tough, when things go wrong. When lighthouses are needed when the storms blow in and the seas are high and things are scary. Well, that's the same way a leader is needed. Leaders are most needed when things are tough, when things aren't convenient. Sometimes as a leader, you got to tell people things they don't want to hear. It ain't just going, well, the polls say I should use this word, because that's what people are thinking. Sometimes people are thinking wrong crap. Okay, that's the reality. Leaders change the polls, not respond to the polls. Being a leader means you have to make things happen. Again, one of my favorite Sir Winston Churchill stories that, I was over last summer was the 50th anniversary of his passing. And so I was at an event at Blenheim Palace, which is where he was born, which is where the Duke of Marlborough and his cousin was the Duke of Marlborough. He was born into aristocracy. In what I consider, for a lot of people, I talk about you born on third, but you didn't hit a triple. Okay, I tell my boys all the time, who are two great young men now, that you got to pull your own little red wagon. Okay, it's, you got to pull your deal. Okay, just because you were born on third, you didn't hit a triple. Okay, you just standing on third, and you the one that's got to pull your own deal. Well, Churchill was very much born into aristocracy with a family name and all of that. Became an incredibly successful politician, incredibly successful, young. He was one of the toasts of England in his young career. In 1915, at a very young age, he was the First Lord of the Admiralty, which is like the Secretary of the Navy. And he concocted a scheme to invade Germany in World War I from the south at a place called Gallipoli, and it was a disaster. 10,000 men lost their lives in the invasion, and he had to step down. The London Times headline was, "Churchill's career over." And he became he still was in Parliament, but people didn't pay him a lot of attention. During the 1930s, that era of his life was referred to as the wilderness years. He was out of power, out of favor. Hitler, understand what's, and some of it, everybody, if you don't understand history, you are doomed to repeat it. I genuinely believe. And what was happening then was all of the people in their middle age, so the people that influenced the country, had been young people in World War I. And millions of lives were lost in Europe in World War I. So no one wanted another war. Last thing they wanted to do was face an enemy. They wanted to do anything but to deal with a real problem. So Hitler had risen to power in Germany, and Hitler was rearming Germany daily. And Churchill would rise to speak about it in the House of Commons and get booed, told, "Sit down, Winston, you're washed up. You're a warmonger, Winston. Sit down." And at the end of one of these speeches, where he gave a speech on how Germany was rebuilding their aircraft to be able to bomb and invade England, and all of the, just Winston, because everybody was wanting to believe we can deal with Hitler. We can deal with him. Okay, we can make a deal with him, it'll all go away. And at the end of his talk, he said, as he was folding up to sit down, he said, "The truth is incontrovertible. Malice may attack it, ignorance may deride it, but in the end, there it is." And he was right. And at age 65, he became prime minister in 1940 and saved Western civilization. Now, when he became prime minister, he wrote in his diary that night, his words in the diary, where I saw the diary because they had it at Blenheim. It said, "I felt as if I was walking with destiny, that my whole life had been but a preparation for this moment and this trial." See, now, most of us aren't going to ever have to save Western civilization. But you got to be a lighthouse. The world needs people right now more than ever that are bridge builders, not bridge destroyers. The world needs people that pull one another together. Sure, we're all different. Sure, we all have different views in life. Sure, we have our this, that, but in truth, we got more in common than we do different. You can disagree. I think we've forgotten that you can disagree without being disagreeable. You can have different views, and that doesn't make you evil or me evil. It makes us human beings. But that you've got to be a lighthouse that lights the path to something good. We need to quit looking for some politician or somebody to fix things. We need to fix it. If we want to save the American dream, we each need to do it every day by how we are, what we do. Your friends, your family, your community needs you to be the best you can be. You need to be the change. You need to be the person. Quit looking for someone else. You be the leader. You be the uniter. You be the person that calms things down, that makes things better, that brings people together. If you'd bring up the next slide for me before I go into my close. If you would like, I would like to build a community of leaders. That's my goal. My motivation now, life has been amazing to me. I've had a great life. I've, had blessings financially way beyond anything a kid from Route 2 Brown Bridge Road, Covington, Georgia ever thought he'd have. It's been a great adventure. And I want to spend my time helping people be better people, helping people live a life of happiness and fulfillment, but more important than that, helping them help other people live a life of happiness and fulfillment and being a positive force in the world. So if you go out, my website is johnaddisonleadership.com. I would love, I'm not, I've never been, until all of this, I was never on social media and all that. But but that'll link you to my Facebook page, my Twitter feed. And I would love, I don't know, I guess it's you follow me on Twitter and like me on Facebook or whatever, something like that. I would like if you followed and liked me and connected and became a part of the community that I'm hoping to build of better leaders for the world that we have right now. Because I'm telling you, we need it more than ever. A leader is a beacon. A leader is a rock. A leader is a force of nature. Philip of Macedonia, Alexander the Great's father, said, an army of sheep led by a lion is more feared than an army of lions led by sheep. You need to be a lion. Life is too short for small thinking and small dreams. You need to get up every day and say, I will do today what others don't, so I'll have tomorrow what others won't. You need to be playing wide open. You need to be playing positive. You need to be at your best. You need to be a team builder, a dream builder by being focused, determined, and positive. If you get knocked down, get up. If you can see up, you can get up. You need to change. You need to charge. And I'll see you at the top, because the bottom sure is crowded.